bustling streets of the imperial capital, there was a name that echoed through every courtyard and chamber, carried on the lips of scholars, soldiers, and even noblemen. That name was Lan Xiu, the renowned courtesan of the capital. With her delicate, porcelain skin, eyes as dark as midnight, and lips like the petals of a rose, she was a living work of art. But beneath her beauty and grace lay a heart hardened by betrayal, a heart that had been torn apart by the one man she had once trusted. It had all begun years ago when Lan Xiu had been a young, naive girl from a humble family. She had fallen in love with a dashing young man named Li Jun, a man who had promised her the world. He had swept her off her feet with his words, his charm, and his touch. He had vowed to marry her, to take her away from the harshness of life and give her everything she had ever dreamed of. But promises are fragile things in a world where power, wealth, and status are the true currencies. One day, after years of devotion, Lan Xiu discovered that Li Jun had betrayed her. He had married a woman of higher status, a noblewoman, in a calculated move to elevate his own rank. Devastated, Lan Xiu had vowed never to allow herself to be vulnerable again. She left her home, vanishing into the vastness of the capital, alone and without a coin to her name. Desperation led her to the only path left for a woman with no family, no status, and no protection. A life behind silk curtains, where she became a courtesan not by choice, but by necessity. But unlike the others, she would never allow herself to love again. She would be admired, desired, but never touched by the hand of affection. For years, Lan Xiu's reputation grew. She became known as the courtesan who could capture a man's heart with a mere glance, the woman whose voice could make even the hardest of hearts ache. But despite her beauty and talent, she remained emotionally distant, locked behind a wall she refused to let anyone breach. But one day, fate intervened. It was a warm spring afternoon when Lan Xiu first met Jian Hao, the son of a wealthy merchant. He arrived at the grand tea house where Lan Xiu performed, the golden sunlight bathing the room in a soft glow. He was unlike any man she had ever seen, tall, with a gentle demeanor and eyes that seemed to look beyond her beauty, beyond the facade she had carefully crafted over the years. He didn't gaze at her with the usual hunger of other men. No, his gaze was filled with something more, a quiet respect. Lan Xiu was immediately intrigued, but she had learned long ago not to indulge such curiosities. She had no interest in another fleeting admirer. Yet, Jian Hao did not leave. Every day he returned, sitting in the corner of the tea house, silently watching her perform. His eyes were kind, not demanding, and for the first time in many years, Lan Xiu felt something stir in her heart, a feeling she had long buried deep within her. Over time, Jian Hao became a regular visitor to the tea house. His quiet presence was soothing to Lan Xiu, and she found herself anticipating his visits. He never spoke to her directly, never sought her company, but there was something in the way he looked at her that made her feel seen, truly seen, for the first time in years. Then, one evening after her performance, he approached her. His voice was soft, yet steady. "Your voice," he said, "is like the wind through the willow trees, gentle, yet strong. It has a way of making even the most hardened hearts soften." Lan Xiu was taken aback. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Most men praised her beauty, her grace, but Jian Hao spoke to her as if she were more than just a courtesan. He spoke to her as a person, a soul. She didn't know how to respond, but her heart, which she had carefully guarded for so long, seemed to flutter in a way it never had before. I appreciate your words," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "but I'm afraid they are wasted on me." Jian Hao's expression softened. "I don't think so. I think your heart is just waiting for the right person to unlock it." His words were like a key, turning in a lock she had long since forgotten existed. For the first time in years, Lan Xiu found herself wondering if it was possible to open her heart again. But she quickly pushed the thought away. She was no fool. Jian Hao was like all the others. He would fall in love with her, and then he would leave, just as Li Jun had. Still, Jian Hao's visits became more frequent, and over time, he began to court her in a way no man had ever done before. He would bring her small, thoughtful gifts, a delicate fan carved from ivory, a beautiful silk scarf embroidered with cranes, a jar of the finest jasmine tea. Each gift seemed to say more than words ever could. They were tokens of his respect, his admiration, his genuine care for her, not for her beauty or her talent, but for her, the woman. Lan Xiu found herself slowly letting down the walls she had so carefully constructed around her heart. She began to see Jian Hao not as another admirer, but as a man of honor and sincerity. But she was still afraid. Afraid of what would happen if she allowed herself to fall for him, just as she had fallen for Li Jun all those years ago. One night, as the moon shone brightly over the Imperial capital, Lan Xiu found herself standing in the courtyard of her home, staring at the night sky. She had just finished a performance, and Jian Hao had been there, as usual, sitting quietly in the corner, watching her with those kind eyes. He had left early that evening, but as the night grew late, he returned. This time, he did not sit in the corner. This time, he approached her, his footsteps quiet but determined. "Lan Xiu," he said softly, his voice filled with an emotion she could not quite name. "I cannot pretend anymore. I care for you deeply. You have captivated my heart in ways I never thought possible." Lan Xiu's heart raced. She wanted to say something, to respond, but the words wouldn't come. She had always feared this moment, feared the vulnerability that came with allowing someone into her heart. She opened her mouth, but no sound escaped. Jian Hao stepped closer, reaching out to gently touch her hand. "I don't expect anything from you, Lan Xiu. I simply want you to know that I am here, and I will always be here, for as long as you'll have me." For the first time, Lan Xiu felt the weight of her own fear, her own pain, lift. She realized that she was no longer afraid, that the past no longer had the power to control her. She had the choice now, to let herself love again, to let herself be loved. With trembling hands, she placed her hand in his, the warmth of his touch grounding her. "I never thought I could love again," she whispered, her voice filled with a tenderness she had long denied. "But perhaps you can show me that it's possible." Jian Hao smiled, his eyes full of hope and affection. "I will spend every day proving that it is." And so, in that quiet courtyard beneath the moonlit sky, two hearts that had once been broken found healing in one another. Lan Xiu's walls, built from years of pain and betrayal, slowly crumbled as she allowed herself to feel again. And Jian Hao, with his unwavering love and patience, proved to her that love was not a fleeting thing, but something that could endure, something that could heal even the deepest wounds. The crimson lotus, once a symbol of sorrow and despair, now bloomed as a beacon of rebirth, its petals unfolding in the quiet grace of a love that had found its way through the darkest of shadows. From the depths of pain, it rose, soft yet unyielding, a testament to the resilience of the heart. Lan Xiu learned that sometimes it is not the grand gestures, but the quiet patience of one gentle soul that can remind you that love, in its purest form, is always worth the risk. And in that tender bloom, she discovered that even the most broken hearts can learn to trust again, and the truest love often grows in the unlikeliest of gardens.